Tim, appreciate your time. I've been interviewing you about problems with gambling and casinos in this country for many years now. Why has it taken so long for real action to be taken?
Well, it's taken so long because of regulatory capture by Crown Casino and political capture of both sides of politics by Crown Casino. Their donations to both sides of politics, the fundraisers that they run for the political parties at Crown, and really Victorians have lost confidence in the government regulating Crown because Crown just seems too big to regulate and too big to allow to fail. But what really upsets me for the Victorian public is the money laundering, which really is code for enabling crime, has hurt the Victorian community. And that's why this Royal Commission, to get to the bottom of this capture, is so important to protect the community.
Well, we just heard the Victorian Premier, Daniel Andrews, now saying he is prepared to rip up the Crown Casino licence if the Royal Commission recommends it. Do you ever see us actually getting to that point?
Yes, I do. I think they've appointed a very good commissioner. I think he doesn't need to waste his 5 months going over what the Bergen inquiry found. It's found the evidence of criminal behaviour, of money laundering, of criminal triads. What he really needs to do is to say, how did this regulatory capture happen? How do you actually have a regulator that gets the politics and the parties out of it? So the sweetheart deal where Crown has a deal that says if there's any change in the regulation, the taxpayer has to pay them $250 million. How did we get into that position? By the way, that's actually pretty true of Crown in New South Wales. The regulator there said I would have cancelled them straight away, bang, gone, but for the fact of the deal to protect them even up there. So Crown has been treated like no other business in Australia. In Melbourne, it almost functions like a city-state. Think the Vatican, with its own laws, its own immunity, its own power, its own arrogance. So that's why this Royal Commission is so important to get to the bottom of this.
Several directors of the Crown Board have now resigned. Do more need to go, in your view?
Well, look, the real issue is, as Justice Bergen said, that James Packer, who she talked about having an insidious influence and being ultimately responsible for the culture, James Packer still owns 37% of the shares. That effectively means James Packer can still appoint with his voting bloc up to 100% of the directors. So as directors fall, the real issue says who actually owns Crown and who really needs to be there to change the culture to assure the Victorian public that there's no more money laundering and enabling crime. And the finger is pointed at James Packer there. He's still dominant with 37% of the shares.
Tim, I'm keen for your views on another matter. We've just heard in the past hour that the government is increasing the job seeker payment by $50 per fortnight. Is that enough? It is the single largest rise we've seen since the 80s.
Yeah, look, it's far better to be trying to live on $70 a day than $40 a day. So that's the effect of it. I still think $70 a day is really, really tough. And always the logic was, well, there are jobs. People can actually get a job if they want to. But we know that COVID meant that people's jobs were shut down by the government. And therefore, I think being much more generous would have been better. But I do welcome this.
And finally, Tim, you're involved as well with MICA Australia, the overseas aid organisation. Through that role, I know you've been closely following plans to vaccinate poorer populations in third world countries. Are these countries being sidelined by wealthier nations' demands? As we know, there's a limited vaccine supply and wealthy countries are trying to get their hands on as much as they can.
Yes, they have been sidelined and they've been pushed to the back of the queue as wealthy nations have snapped up the vaccines. I'm really heartened that in the last 2 days, Joe Biden has announced a $4 billion commitment to make sure that poor nations actually get access to. Why should health the Australians be getting it and frontline workers in poor nations be missing out. So at least there is some good news on the horizon there.
Tim Costello, always appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much.
That's a pleasure. Thank you.